gentlemen, please welcome this year's inductees. Actress and comedian, Betty White. Sports commentator and Olympic host, Jim McKay. Actor and comedian, Dick Van Dyke. Television commentator and PBS host, Bill Moyers. Representing the writing producing team of Richard Levinson and William Link. And in memoriam, actor, writer, producer, and director, Michael Landon. Celebrating tonight's inductees, Patrick Duffy, Peter Falk, Bruce Jenner, Larry King, Michelle Lee, and John Ritter. Ladies and gentlemen, your host for the 11th Annual Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame, Dick Clark.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Good evening and welcome. Now, imagine this. Every spring, a group of very wise people gather in the second-floor conference room at the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Now, somebody puts on a strong pot of coffee and the sleeves are all rolled up, and it begins. The process of selecting 7 gifted individuals from the television industry whose creativity, innovations, and leadership has changed the medium of television forever. Now, that's a pretty tall assignment, and from what I've heard, is not always a peaceful one. There are rumors that there's a little filibustering, some foot stomping there on the second floor, but eventually, as the day grows long and the coffee becomes stronger, 7 brilliant decisions are happily and harmoniously reached, and they are here with us tonight. Now, as the guardian of the coveted Emmy Award, the Television Academy is an important and a very busy place. The Emmy is the industry's top honor for single achievement, but to be inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame is something else. It's the jewel in the crown that says, you've done your best time after time. And we are here to remember and celebrate that tonight. As we honor our inductees, you're going to see some vintage film clips and hear some wonderful stories from their closest colleagues. We've raided the tape vaults, borrowed the family scrapbooks, cajoled a few crusty agents, and put together a look at how each of our inductees got started in the business and what they've accomplished to find themselves sitting here tonight trying to look all calm, cool, and collected. Now, before we begin, let's take a moment to appreciate the company we keep. The 70 distinguished men and women who've been inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame since its inception 10 years ago. These wonderful clips you're about to enjoy are from a decade of Television Hall of Fame shows, produced and directed by the 23-time Emmy-winning team of Gary Smith and Dwight Hemme. Gentlemen, thank you very much for the great memories.
I have mixed emotions about this evening. I really do. The very fact that they say you're being inducted into the Hall of Fame sounds suspiciously like you're being entombed.
The Television Academy proudly inducts Lucille Ball.
Imagine it. First Television Academy Hall of Fame.
Milton Berle.
I sincerely want to thank all of you out there, you that are watching, for giving me the privilege of appearing in your homes.
Norman Lear, William S. Paley, General David Sarnoff, Edward R. Murrow, Patty Chayefsky, Carol Burnett.
I'm proud to be in such wonderful company.
Sid Caesar.
An der Reihe von Stuppenereien und an der Reihe von Stubbereien und dann in der Reihe von Stuppenereien.
Walter Cronkite.
I accept this honor with genuine, if quite unaccustomed, humility.
Sylvester Pat Weaver, Rod Serling, Joyce C. Hall, Ed Sullivan.
The Television Academy proudly inducts Mary Tyler Moore,
Dr. Frank Stanton, Steve Allen, Walt Disney, Fred Coe, Burr Tillstrom, Jackie Gleason, Jim Henson, Eric Severai, Johnny Carson, Jacques Cousteau, Leonard Goldenson, Bob Hope,
can't tell you what a thrill it is to be honored by your peers. Especially at my age. I'm thrilled to have any peers left.
Ernie Kovacs. Red Skelton.
When I was a little boy, about 8 years old, I promised my mother, someday I promise you that I will take you where it's nice and warm. Well, that turned out to be Palm Springs. And that we will have money in the bank. And before I die, I will try to do something with my life that will be remembered. It looks like we made it, Mom.
George Burns and Gracie Allen.
Walk out on stage and I say to Gracie, how's your brother? And she talked for 22 minutes.
Chet Huntley and David Brinkley. David L. Wolfer. Jack Benny. David Susskind. Barbara Walters. Rune Arlen. Joan Gans Cooney. Terry Como.
You're looking at a very proud man right now.
Don Hewitt. Carol O'Connor. Fred Astaire. Mike Wallace. James Garner.
A lot of people go to work in the mornings and they don't like the job they do. I'm so fortunate. I love every minute of it.
Danny Thomas. Desi Arnaz. Leonard Bernstein. Ted Turner. Sheldon Leonard. Dinah Shore.
To be recognized by your peers is the most wonderful experience anyone, a broken down singer or anybody else, could possibly have. This profession has been very good to me.
Ted Koppel, Andy Griffith, Bill Cosby.
The statue, I hope the statue looks like me.
John Chancellor, Bill Donahue.
Just last week, I was named Man of the Year by Transvestites for a Better America.
Dick Clark, Bob Newhart.
It's a great treat. The only other time I was ever inducted in anything, I had to take off all my clothes.
Agnes Nixon, Mark Goodson, Jack Webb. Alan Alda.
I'm looking at Sid Caesar, and I was looking at Walter Cronkite, Lucy, Carol Burnett. These people, I mean, you understand that when I was starting out and poor and driving a cab to make a living, my hope is that one of these people would get into the back of my cab. That would have been everything I had to live for.
Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera, Barry Diller, Fred Friendly, Howard Cosell, and Oprah Winfrey.
And I thank the Academy for giving me this extreme honor of the Hall of Fame. What else is left after the Hall of Fame?
The 11th Annual Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame will return as Michelle Lee honors Betty White. Television.
Betty White, tonight's first Television Academy Hall of Fame inductee, has a reputation of telling it like it is in the nicest sort of way. Now, to tell you about that Golden Girl, Rose, and all the other sassy characters Miss White has portrayed throughout the years, is an actress of equal enthusiasm and talent. As Karen McKenzie on the award-winning series Knots Landing, she appeared in a record-breaking 344 consecutive episodes. You talk about a gold star for attendance. Acclaimed as an actress, a producer, and director, her film projects tell stories about strong women whose lives impact society. Our inductee and inductor have this in common. Their sheer likability is legendary. And by the way, they both have cats. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Lee.
Oh, Betty, oh, you look so gorgeous, my little dimpled darling. Mentor. I really don't take that word lightly. Authentic role models are just too rare today. We all know that. But from the get-go, first from black and white and then in living color, Betty was a role model worth watching. As an LA Times reporter so astutely put it, the only reason Betty was not on television the first 24 years of her life is because it didn't exist. It's true. In fact, Betty's first Emmy predated Sputnik. Through all her incarnations, what I've consistently admired is a working actress who refused to hide her brightness and intelligence. And besides holding down a successful career, I saw a woman of integrity who believed in home and put love always very, very high on that priority list, and took time for needy creatures, especially those with a leg in each corner. Yes, and has anybody noticed that Miss White is the only woman being inducted here tonight, and in the company of some very attractive men? Typical. Who else but Betty has shown us that smart and tart and nice and spice are not only fun, but perfectly compatible.
Well, then tell me one good thing about me, anything at all.
Well, you're attractive, very attractive.
Pretty?
You bet.
Glamorous?
I more remember her circular bed that vibrated so magnificently.
Betty's one of those wonderful talents who can create it on the spur of the moment. Take something that's nothing and make it into something.
Well, I tell you, menopause was wonderful for me. It meant no more PMS.
I never had PMS. Neither did I. But I had a BMW.
The lady has a gifted mouth.
Now you cut first line. None for me, Mom. All that refined sugar, that just takes every bit of vitamin B right out of your system. A lot of it over the years makes a person half crazy. But you all go right ahead and enjoy it.
She has been the queen of Saturday night for a long time.
I always said that Betty's eyes reminded me of Little Orphan Annie. You know how they're just white with nothing in them? Because she could look, when she was being Rose, she could look at you with such a blank stare that it just cracked me up because she was so completely, totally naive.
Even at 6 years old, Betty White was stealing hearts and winning smiles, especially from her parents, homemaker Tess and engineer Horace. A beauty queen in 5th grade, she graduated to the stage and soon became one of television's first Golden Girls.
Betty White is the only person I know that's been in television longer than I have.
Betty White Show from Hollywood.
I'm to say hello again. And you and August have a lot of memories to share. I want you to pretend that I'm not even here.
My favorite episode of Betty's was the one in which she just full out, no pretending, made her move on Lou Grant.
Look, Sue Ann, don't do that.
Go ahead, Lou. You're stronger than I am. Pressure advantage. Be gentle, Lou. That's all I ask. Be gentle.
I just adore working with her. I learn from her every day.
Get out of the house. At least give yourself the possibility of falling in love again.
Isn't it possible to have a full and meaningful life without a man?
For a few days, maybe. 3 weeks once.
All I know is whenever I needed her help, whenever I reached out to her for a personal favor or give me a hand, you always did. I love you. I thank you for your friendship.
I think your induction into the TV Hall of Fame is fantastic.
I love working with you. You are the best mother that a stage daughter could have.
Betty, I take my hat off to you. And from the bottom of my heart, congratulations, and I love you.
I just wish that along with being inducted into the Hall of Fame, you were inducted back into my life. I miss you.
And that's just a brief look at television's Mistress of innuendo. What a career. Betty White, for helping pioneer a new medium, for your golden, golden gift of comedy, and for your brilliant contribution to the art of ensemble acting. We warmly welcome you to the Television Academy Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you guys so much. I can't, it's so silly to say that this is the most special night, because with all the other wonderful nights that there have been, this one is special because it's kind of forever. I've been involved in these inductions on several occasions for Mary, and for Dinah, and for Mark Goodson. And you know what? And this I say with all honesty from the bottom of my heart. I was so dumb, it never occurred to me to even fantasize about standing here. I was an inductor. I was never going to be an inductee because it never occurred to me. I can claim one thing that I don't know whether anybody else can claim, and I do it wholeheartedly. Nobody has ever had more fun in this world doing what they do for a living than I have in television. Thank you so very, very much.
Television Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame will return with Patrick Duffy and a tribute to Michael Landon.
This talent thing works. Our next presenter goes from romance and dramatic cliffhangers in the hit series Dallas to a warm and loving dad on the ABC hit comedy series Step by Step. All of this, and he gets to be dashing and handsome too. Ladies and gentlemen, to honor Michael Landon, please welcome Mr. Patrick Duffy.
I never worked with Michael Landon, but one of the great things about being in this business is that every so often you get a chance to meet one of the people who was a hero to you, who inspired you, who was a role model, or all three in one. I met Michael Landon. It was a number of years ago when Dallas and Little House were both shooting on the MGM lot in Culver City, and one afternoon, my friend Melissa Gilbert, knowing that I was a fan of his, said, "Patrick, if you have some time, why don't you stop by the set and I'll introduce you to Michael." So I got a small case of the flutters and took my next break on Dallas and went over there. And when I arrived, there was Michael. He was sitting on a box used on the set, surrounded by kids, playing chess with one of the grips. He stopped the game and he looked up and he said, "Hey, Patrick, how you doing?" Just like I was an old friend. And I sincerely think that that is one of the unique gifts of Michael. If Michael Landon had an enemy, it was indecision. His advice was, do it. Whatever you want to do, do it now. There are only so many tomorrows. He had many projects still on the table, but what he gave us is a bounty of timeless gifts, a legacy of television, movies, and series that obviously will stand the test of time.
Awful lot of good people in this world, Mark. I'm just here to try to help them.
He was definitely one of the good ones. And for over 3 decades, whether he was playing a cowboy, a prairie father, or an earthbound angel, Michael Landon turned his bumpy ride of a life into a lifetime of heartwarming television. He was born Eugene Orowitz in 1936, and his troubled childhood greatly contributed to the passion and depth of his work. emotions he explored in autobiographical films he wrote and directed. The Loneliest Runner was named for the real-life race Michael ran every day to take down his wet bedsheet before his friends saw what he had done.
2, 4, 6, 8, through the wheel.
John! Hey, Orwell! Come on! We haven't got all day.
In Sam's Son, Michael told the story of how his incredible prowess as a high school javelin thrower earned him a scholarship to the University of Southern California. He began acting and quickly found a new home on the range.
Look what just rode into town. I am known as... My name is Alan Horn. Don't worry, I'll be champ. I guess I proved I was somebody, didn't I? I just woke up to the fact that I don't want to live your kind of life anymore.
I've got a playboy women everywhere, bonanza.
Now, I can't speak real fancy like Shakespeare. And I don't agree with it.
Why not?
Well, first of all, I can't compare you to a summer's day. You're more like a day in spring.
Michael always wanted to keep his television family together, namely the crew that had been with him, really Kent McKay and the team, as he would call it.
We worked together on Bonanza, and then after Bonanza, NBC asked Michael to do Little House on the Prairie.
He wrote about 25% of those shows, oversaw all of them, directed half of them, and of course was the star.
It was like little Joe grew up, and now it was time for him, to raise a family.
He was wired in to the American heartland, and he knew what people needed to hear about, what they needed to laugh at, and what they needed to cry about.
The day that we actually blew up the buildings, I turned to Michael, and both of us just cried.
Then the day came when Michael was ready to go back in front of the cameras.
In my job, I'm sent to various places by my boss to try to help me.
Go on.
I'd like to leave it at that.
Yeah, I bet you would. Come on now. What is the setup here? I mean, who's your boss?
God.
He hated the violence. He wanted to show people as people.
I'm an angel.
You're an angel. Oh, I see.
I know it sounds crazy.
No, just a trifle.
I wish you'd take my word for it.
Mike gave his heart. He gave his heart through his shows and his work.
Let the world know that it's time to put away their petty hates and to join together for the common good of all men.
It's your friend Brandon here. I know you're up there watching because, well, let's say you've always been an angel, all right? And I want you to know that I miss you, but more than that, television misses you.
Michael Landon, for your multiple talents in acting, writing, producing, and directing, a career that is without parallel in this industry, for entertaining our families with well-crafted, heartfelt characters who care and inspire, and for your dignity and humor, both of which continue to lift and encourage us. I proudly and posthumously welcome you into the Television Academy Hall of Fame. Celebrating Michael Landon's life and this special honor tonight is Mrs. Michael Landon and the Landon family.
Thank you and good evening. It's a great honor for me to be here tonight, accepting this award on behalf of a very special man, my husband, Michael. He is loved and he is greatly missed by all of us, but he will live on forever in our hearts and in our minds. And on behalf of the Landon family, we thank you very much. Thank you.
The Television Academy Hall of Fame will continue with the induction of Olympic sportscaster Jim McKay.
Enjoy the Breakfast of Champions. Our next presenter is no stranger. His handsome face adorned that All-American orange cereal box for 7 successful years. And there's a good reason why. On the golf course, he's a 12 handicap. He wins races on mountain bikes. He flies his own jet. And this past summer, he celebrated the 19th anniversary of his gold medal decathlon triumph at the 1976 Olympic Games. And if you think that takes a lot of energy, his father of the year and his wife, Chris, are raising a lot of kids with another one on the way. Ladies and gentlemen, truly one of the world's greatest athletes, Bruce Jenner.
I just want to first say what a tremendous honor it is for me to be able to induct our next honoree. I first became aware of the spirited presence of Jim McKay in the summer of 1972 at the Olympic Games in Munich. Now, you couldn't help but notice Jim out there on the track with a camera crew wearing that bright yellow sports jacket. Remember that? And I thought then, as I do now, that Jim McKay is a symbol of excellence. Whether Jim knew it or not, he really helped me with my incentive. You see, to be interviewed by Jim McKay, especially after a victory, was the ultimate. But perhaps the answer to Jim McKay's success is in this little story. During the Innsbruck Games, the camera crews were setting up for the downhill races. Rune Arledge insisted on certain camera angles. And he said he just didn't want to see the skiers, he wanted to see the skiers' faces. Well, they got those great shots of everybody's faces, all right, but it was Jim McKay who brought those faces to life.
Anyone who goes into any Hall of Fame in any business, to me, has to possess 2 traits: consistency combined with quality. And for more than 30 years, I can think of nobody in my business who has done it better or more often than Jim McKay.
World record number 72. A.J. Foyt will win the Indianapolis 500. It looks like he made it.
Well, the kid did it, and the bid did it. Ronnie Franklin on spectacular bids with a marvelous victory in the Kentucky Derby.
The fellow on the right is nicknamed Orange Juice because he had to give up drinking scotch. A lot of speed in that track. Look at him go! Oh! Oh, baby.
I'm one of the few people who remembers the very first Wide World of Sports show.
Sports, in its unending variety, unfolds on ABC's Wide World of Sports.
It's the first time I heard Jim McKay, and I thought to myself, that's pretty good.
Here she comes, Wilma Rudolph, winging her way to the finish line. She's going to make it.
And in Jim McKay, we found a person who not only understood and loved the essence of sport, but he had the vocabulary and the sensitivity to describe it in ways that people across America could identify with.
Listen to that crowd. Peggy Fleming participating for the first time in the senior championship. Last year, you were just 3rd in the juniors. How do you account for the tremendous improvement in your skating, Peggy?
Well, I worked hard this year.
He would bring out the human side.
She was within yards of finishing the marathon and winning the event when the body began to overwhelm the heart.
Dorothy Hamill is really shaken by it, and it looked to us like she was crying, and still is. It's a really tough break for the American girl trying for a world championship, and I would have to say a bad performance on the part of the crowd. Just a miserable thing for people to do to a competitor.
The International Olympic Committee should consider Jim McKay the single most important person in the advancement of the Olympic Games during the 20th century.
But a Friday like none other in the history of Southern California. That is a historic performance you're watching right now in gymnastics.
Bruce Jenner, take it home to California.
Peggy Fleming, deserving all the congratulations that she has received from her own country and from around the world.
Olga Corbett tasted the thrill of victory on Monday night, but last night she learned what every 17-year-old must learn, the agony of defeat.
The Olympics were Jim's domain, and he covered so many remarkable performances. But nothing was as dramatic as the 1972 terrorist massacre.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim McKay speaking to you from ABC Sports headquarters just outside the Olympic Village in Munich, West Germany. On a lovely late summer afternoon, the tense vigil continues.
When I heard about the capturing of the Israeli athletes and the fact that this was going to be a very sensitive and long news story, I called for Jim to come and do it rather than the people who were scheduled to do it.
In a bizarre, strange, and terrible spectacle that started at shortly before 5 o'clock yesterday morning, beginning the longest and most terrible day in the history of the Olympic Games, either ancient or modern.
Jim did not over-dramatize anything in a situation where it would have been very easy to do something like that.
I'm not sure these men have guns or cameras. That's a gun, all right.
And he was cool, but he was also, in his own way, emotional. And you knew how his heart broke because of what was going on.
Our worst fears have been realized tonight. They've now said that there were 11 hostages. 2 were killed in their rooms yesterday morning. 9 were killed at the airport tonight. They're all gone.
Of all the people who congratulated him, the one that he appreciated most was a telegram from Walter Cronkite saying, "You did our industry proud today." And it was probably the defining moment in his career.
Now back to the indomitable, diminutive one, Jim McKay.
Diminutive one. Someday, Howard, someday.
Jim has taught as much to as many people through the medium of television as anybody I can think of in the last 30 years.
All you have to do is tune in any weekend and listen to announcers trying to convey that feeling to people, none of whom has ever matched Jim, and you see what his legacy is, and that's why he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Bruce Jenner, "Take it home to California" is my favorite line from your career. But Jim, before we continue, I just want to point out that sharing your table tonight is Margaret, your wife of 46 years. Your daughter Mary, your grandson James, and unfortunately your son Sean is working in, I guess, in London and wasn't able to make it here tonight. But what a beautiful family. Congratulations. So for Jim, in a career for television sportscasting, distinguished by intelligence, compassion, and a keen sense of human drama, for the joy you've given us for 10 Olympic Games, enlightening us with places, athletes, and sports we knew little about, and for the singular gift of telling the untold story so very well, we proudly induct you into the Television Academy Hall of Fame. A good man, Jim McKay.
You know, you remember the guy who said that his wife made all the little decisions and he made all the big ones? You know, she made the little ones like where they would live, what kind of car they would drive, what kind of tie he would wear, and so forth. He made all the big decisions like, should communist China be admitted to the United Nations? Well, that's pretty much the way it's been in our house. Margaret raised our 2 kids. Mary, who was pointed out, is with us tonight looking as beautiful as ever, and Sean, unfortunately, is in London on business. Margaret also took care of our money and, well, everything else so that I could roam the world talking about fun and games. Without her, I wouldn't be standing here, and I thank her most of all. June Arledge changed my career forevermore with a phone call asking me to be host of a summer replacement show called Wide World of Sports, which is now, after almost 35 years, beginning to look like steady work. Many thanks, Ron. I thank our grandson, James, for being a constant reminder to look to the future, not the past. And I thank the Academy for this, which is certainly the climax, but I hope certainly not the end of my career. Thank you all very much.
The 11th Annual Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame will return with Larry King as he inducts commentator Bill Moyers.
Let me ask you all a question. Think back. What was the first television program, the first series or television special you ever watched? Okay, got it? I'll tell you a few of mine. Like climbing out of bed and peeking around the corner at 8 o'clock to watch Milton Berle while my dad slept on the couch. Or eating dinner while watching Buffalo Bob and the Peanut Gallery on the Howdy Doody Show. And how can I ever forget Bobby Thompson hitting the home run that kept my Dodgers out of the World Series? Wonderful TV memories that immediately put millions of us on common ground. So once a year, as we reflect on television shows that have informed and entertained us, we set aside a night to show our gratitude to the creative people who made it possible. Those gifted talents who, through the intimate medium of television, have touched us all. Betty White, Bill Moyers, Jim McKay, Dick Van Dyke, the teleplays of William Link and Richard Levinson, Michael Landon, an actor so many of us grew up with. These are the heroes and heroines of our exciting and demanding medium. A medium that takes your breath away when you think of all that it's done in educating, informing, and entertaining us. In the future of TV, I see a potential that's even more profound, exciting opportunities to bring us even closer together. On behalf of the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, may I add a personal note of thanks and congratulations to all our 1995 inductees. We hope the prestigious recognition that you receive tonight not only honors you, but will encourage you and us to even greater heights. Thank you.
You know, you really got to envy our next presenter a little bit. He has a very popular show with a set consisting of 2 chairs. That's it. And there he holds forth, interviewing some of the most fascinating people on earth because he is a master at asking provocative questions with a knockout punch. He's been described as the Muhammad Ali of interviewers. Ladies and gentlemen, an honored member of the Broadcasting Hall of Fame, Larry King.
What kind of pills does he take? This is a special pleasure for me to induct this gentleman into the Hall of Fame tonight. I knew I'd made it when Bill Moyers actually sat in for me on my show. I mean, what a thrill to have him do Larry King Live. Bill Moyers, one of my heroes. We're a little different in style. I would do something like, Memphis, what's your question? Bill would do, Memphis, with its gilded rain and wonderful magnolia in the air, Memphis. Do you have a question, dear Memphis? I think he's the first to remind us that in the beginning was the Word. He is a very special man, a very special man. In fact, I think if we looked up special in the dictionary, Bill Moyers' picture. If we looked up class in the dictionary, Bill Moyers' picture. At a very young age, Bill Moyers was determined to explore the potential of a premise to want to know, and he has succeeded so eloquently. From the frontiers of the mind to the secret places of the soul, with words and with reason, his work has enlightened us, sometimes urged us toward common possibilities, at other times acknowledged our forgotten achievements. But consistently, Bill, you've demanded us to be curious, to grab and wonder all that is around us.
He gets inside of you.
How did you get the word that he had been killed?
He's like a Muhammad Ali in Mr. Peepers' disguise.
Why myths? Why should we care about myths? And he has the capacity to engage those subjects in a unique way that brings them alive. You are resurrecting that language, or you are turning that language around right in the moment of creation.
For the past quarter century, Bill Moyers has created countless hours of memorable television just by listening to America. Exploring the vast human landscape, he has taken us on amazing journeys, from the most metaphysical concepts to the highest corridors of power. Bill Moyers came upon the national scene at 26, serving as Deputy Director of the Peace Corps for JFK, and then as President Lyndon Johnson's press secretary. Having learned how the wheels of Washington turned, he turned his creativity towards an examination of those cherished institutions. Ultimately, his first book led to a career in television, and as a journalist, he's always used the medium to inform, educate, and enlighten us.
I think what he has that too few people have is enormous curiosity about a whole range of human endeavor.
When he says what he thinks, I'm confident he actually gave it some thought.
Each series that Bill has created, first dreamed up and then worked on, has informed me that human beings are more alike than we are unalike.
When did you first understand the meaning of Amazing Grace?
That was in November of 1987 when I got here. You know, this is why I could, because I was one of these church crowds who never realized, you know, the true meaning of Amazing Grace.
I found I learned more about myself talking to Bill Moyers in that hour we did on creativity than any other conversation.
Without that writing, good writing, it doesn't work. What about writing?
The ideas just ram up against it feels like they're running up against my eyes.
Poet and writer Maya Angelou took me with her to the little town of Stamps, Arkansas, where she grew up. A journey both homeward and inward.
The black part of Stamps started right there at that bridge.
Where that fellow's fishing?
Yes. When I told him I couldn't go into certain areas, it would break my heart to go into certain areas. He never tried to persuade me into the area until I wanted to go there. Bill, I tell you, to show you how much things don't change, I'm not even going to cross it with you now. I'm not doing this for any reason other than I really do not want to go across it. I really don't.
I understand. So what are you thinking right now?
You still must. We'll both be safe.
Somehow Bill, in the eclectic taste that he has and sort of the spectrum of his interest, has the capacity, in a sense, to see a good story before others have seen it.
The promise that Edward R. Murrow spoke about early on in television, Bill is among the few who have kept that promise.
Bill, congratulations on a genuinely distinguished career. We are all elevated by your induction into the Television Hall of Fame.
You taught me about excellence, about standards. You taught me about curiosity. You taught me so much about this business that I know that you love, and therefore it is very appropriate that tonight you be honored by the Hall of Fame.
I don't want you to think that being inducted into the Hall of Fame in any way releases you from your perpetual, unending search for the human soul.
Bill Moyers, for your courage in carrying the torch for responsible journalism, for walking with us on new paths of self-discovery, for illuminating injustices and giving a voice to the unheard, we warmly welcome you proudly into the Television Academy Hall of Fame. Bill Moyers.
appreciate this vindication. Television has been so good to me. We journalists are licensed to explain things we don't understand, and there's so much I don't understand that television has become for me a continuing course in adult education, my own especially. I thank you for this moment. I thank you for recognizing tonight the work of a journalist. I thank you for, in the huge universe of television, recognizing the smaller world of public broadcasting. I thank you for all those men and women who through the years have done this work with me, the executive producers, the film editors, the directors, the engineers, the funders, and the executives at public broadcasting and CBS where I worked. I thank you for my wife and partner, who is the president of our company and the co-editor of my life. If this were a just world and life were fair, all these people, 1,000 people, would be here on this stage with me. This moment is for them as well as for me, and for them, I thank you very much.
The 11th Annual Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame will return with John Ritter and the induction of comedian Dick Van Dyke.
Our next presenter holds the distinguished and enviable record for starring in Three's Company, one of television's longest-running comedy series. For this, he won an Emmy. And this statue, along with his very impressive talent, helped him to get even more work. As a matter of fact, I think a week off in Acapulco might do him some good these days. He's currently busy with a new movie for CBS called Unforgivable. Please welcome the unvarnished and truly likable John Ritter.
When I first saw him on television, I was fascinated with every move he'd make. I'd study how when he would panic, his body seemed to explode in several directions at the same time, defying the law of physics. I was fascinated how real he seemed to be and how much he genuinely seemed to care about everybody around him. Or the way his clothes literally seemed to change sizes on his body when he was caught in a lie. So I studied what he was doing, but not to learn how a truly great actor works. No, Dick, I'm sorry. The reason I watched you so carefully was, and I'm glad I have this opportunity in front of everyone to reveal this, as I had this fantasy that if I learned how to do what you were doing, that maybe someday I could get a girl just like Mary Tyler Moore to look at me the way she looked at you. Oh man, I had such a crush on her. I needed your help, Dick. But then later, when I wanted to become an actor, I found that he helped me immeasurably artistically. I watched everything you did. By the way, the comic is one of my favorite movies. I've seen it 5 times. I studied every move you made. It was like going to college. Granted, clown college, but let's be honest about who we are, honk. Dick, I am such a fan that I've taken this opportunity to ask you just a few questions here. And I know you're not Mike, so if you don't mind, you can nod or smile. Okay, first of all, this won't take long. You've won 4 Emmy Awards, right? 5. Right, 5. Good God, 5. Now, going back a little, out here in L.A., you and a couple of pals put together a musical group. And is it true? Was it really called the Merry Mutes? Is that right? Well, then Dick took up dance, and he wins a role in the great Broadway musical called Bye Bye Birdie. That's when a talented writer, producer, director named Carl Reiner buys a ticket to see the show. Carl becomes an immediate fan, soon followed by your loyal legions. Take a look at this.
When you talk about television history, forever, I mean, Dick Van Dyke's got to be right at the top of the list.
He was an original.
I learned more about how good Dick was, because what he did, I couldn't do. I couldn't use it any other place. I couldn't write it for anybody else. It's time!
Dick Van Dyke forever changed the face of television comedy. In 1961, this immensely likable, always charming master of physical comedy first stumbled into our living rooms. And fortunately for us, he's stayed there ever since.
There's not going to be any company. Oh, don't hang up! Steve, how can you say that?
think Dick was destined to be a star in show business.
Say, is my cane in my right hand?
No, sir.
Oh, too bad.
He led a lot of struggling years. People don't remember Dick's failures because nobody knew who he was. He did some game shows.
My name is Dick Van Dyke, and I can attest that these people are telling nothing but the truth.
And he had a tough time of it until Bye Bye Birdie came along.
Before I saw Bye Bye Birdie, I was aware of Dick Van Dyke, but not as aware as I was after I saw him. I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was great.
Oh, hi. No, it's...
What's the matter with him?
He's just very tired, but he's a very good writer.
Well, he may be, but he makes a lousy first impression.
Ron!
If you love me, don't touch me.
Dick was always coming with some piece of inspirational creativity, physicalities especially, and we were never amazed when he did it. We were amazed when he didn't do it.
Every episode was a special, brilliant episode. The Walnut Show, the big finishes, coming home and opening the closet door right by that front door, and the entire closet is filled with what was 2,000 pounds of walnuts. It was probably one of the longest laughs I've ever heard, and one of the most effective and memorable episodes. Everybody loved that.
And the winner in Hollywood is Dick Van Dyke.
In Hollywood, the winner is Dick Van Dyke.
We're now off the air. To all intents and purposes, we stopped shooting our show. That little group of people down there at our table know how gratified I am to them to get this and how much I owe them. But since I'll never have another chance to be up here ever again, I would like also to thank the television industry.
I've always wanted to do a show my way. Sure, it's a lot of responsibility. That's the way I like it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself as I proudly present Van Dyke and Company.
And the winner is Van Dyke and Company.
Dick returned to the Emmy spotlight in the 70s and 80s, honored again for making us laugh. Because from the very beginning, he has always been head and shoulders above the rest.
Guess I just lost my head.
I just want to say congratulations, and you know how proud I am. Remember, I'm one of the first ones that saw your talent, and I told you that.
Hi, my dearest Dick. I am so thrilled with this honor that has come your way, as so many have, and you deserve it. And I applaud you as I have from the very first moment I met you.
The only thing I regret, Dick, is that Mom and Pop aren't here to see it, but they're up there watching, and I knew that you would be in the Hall of Fame someplace.
You are the very best actor ever who's ever worked in situation comedy, bar none.
Through Dick Van Dyke's talent, the fun and brilliance of our comedy heritage burns bright. Chaplin's cleverness and grace, the acrobatic antics of Buster Keaton, the delightful dilemmas of Laurel and Hardy, rare sparks of genius that we find in you. For a career in acting that's ranged from sophisticated romantic comedy to slapstick to musicals to dramatic tragedy, and for a professional demeanor that puts the gesture of kindness over the art of the deal. And most of all, Dick, for making us laugh so well for so long. We proudly welcome you into the Television Academy Hall of Fame.
pleasure.
John, I can't think of anybody that I would rather have do it. This is an honor. Thank you. Great comedian himself, John. Did I just pass along one small thing to you that has gone through my mind lately? Back in the dim, dark days of early television, black and white live, I had a coworker who nicknamed me Fantaccino, which is Italian for puppet, marionette. He said because I didn't seem to have any bones. And over the years, it struck me what a Pinocchio life I've led. There's always been that Geppetto at a critical juncture in my life, and of course the master puppeteer of them all, my own personal Professor Higgins, the Ubermensch, Carl Reiner, who taught me more about what's funny. And he's here tonight. More about what's funny and more really about living than I can ever thank him for. He knew me better than I knew myself. Thank you very much. This is the pinnacle of my life.
The Television Academy Hall of Fame will return with Peter Falk as he inducts Levinson and Link, one of television's top writing teams.
Wearing same shoes, same shirt, same raincoat. His late friend, director John Cassavetes, said, he is deep, he is gentle, he's 2,000 years old. Somebody everybody falls in love with. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Peter Falk.
I guess it would be appropriate. It would certainly be accurate for me to describe Richard Levinson and Bill Link as a uniquely talented writing team that made a huge contribution to the television industry. However, when I think of Bill and Dick, that is not the first thing that occurs to me. What's the first thing? They changed my life. Without Bill and Dick, who knows what would be? In that regard, Jim Backus had an observation. We were kidding around, and he said to me, Peter, without show business, you'd be a box boy and food giant. But the fact is that Richard Levinson and Bill Link created one of the most enduring and beloved shows in the history of this medium. And I, for one, along with the rest of the planet, will be eternally and deeply indebted to them.
We now present tonight's mystery. Here are your clues.
Now, you took 2 suitcases with you, didn't you?
Nobody gives a hoot and a holler.
What do all of these memorable programs have in common? It's their brilliant creators, Richard Levinson and William Link.
Cause of death?
Probably a severe concussion. Turn team all wrapped up, Captain. Nothing.
You saw a crime committed, you saw who did it, and then you saw this little shabby guy kind of plod his way through 2 hours of cat and mouse to finally catch a guy that you knew had done it to begin with.
You are the textbook example of compensation.
Of what, huh?
Compensation. Adaptability. You're an intelligent man, Columbo, but you hide it. You pretend you're something you're not. Why? Because of your appearance.
Well, you've got me pegged pretty good, Doctor.
Levinson and Link were masters of plot construction.
God, what happened? He's been stabbed in the back. Our potential killer is one of us.
Oh, Christmas.
Anybody that has been as productive and creative as Lincoln Levinson, of course, has an impact on what follows.
It was 50 years ago, in junior high school, that Richard Levinson and William Link discovered their mutual love of magic and mystery. They sold stories to their favorite magazines, had plays produced, and ultimately wrote some of the most acclaimed dramatic television of our time.
Lincoln Levinson actually changed my life by allowing me the opportunity to play McCloud.
But like it or not, I got involved in this case just as a plain person. Now, you can close it up as tight as you want to, officially. But unofficially and off the record, and if you insist, off base, I'm in this to the bitter bottom dregs.
Levinson and Link were tremendously prolific in the series production area of television. I think they created 10 or 12 television series in a relatively short period of time. But I think their greatest contribution was in the handful of truly remarkable movies for television that they made.
When you get up there, say a little prayer for me.
I will, Father. I'll pray that you don't follow me to sin.
Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, God,
pray for us
sinners,
sinners. Hail Mary, full of
grace, the Lord is
with thee. Blessed art thou among women.
and
Blessed
blessed
fruit
is
of
thy
thy
womb,
womb,
Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and the hour of our death. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and the hour.
I want margarine, Vienna sausage, evaporated,
Not evaporated, evaporated.
evaporated milk, and I wants to know how I talked myself into going to the store in the first place.
Charlie, you sound just like a Negro.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for creating one of the most enjoyable, fun characters that I've ever played.
My dear friend Dick and Bill, thank you both. Thank you both for raising me up in the business and setting a standard for me to try to emulate, for nurturing me, for taking care of me, and for giving me the first real taste of what it's like to work in a successful show. Thank you both.
Tonight we remember you, Richard Levinson, and we honor you, William Link, for promoting and providing the medium with some of its most literate hours, for stimulating our imagination with crackling good concepts filled with mystery and intrigue. For these hard-won accomplishments, we welcome you, the writing team and producing team of Levinson and Link, into the Television Academy of Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, accepting along with William Link, Mrs. Richard Levinson.
The only sad thing about this evening is that my collaborator and best friend of 41 years, Dick Levinson, is not with us tonight. He was a brilliant man, funny as hell, irascible, a writer and human being of the highest standards, a friend of intense loyalty, and I miss him still every day. But if he was here, I know that he would be as touched and as grateful and as honored as I am tonight. And so for the both of us, we thank you very, very much. And as Lieutenant Colombo says, one more thing to all our fellow writers out there: write better, please pass it on. Thank you.
I would just like to congratulate Bill also. And on behalf of our dear Richard, Chris and I say thank you very much. You would have made him very, very happy. Thank you.
To our 1995 Television Academy Hall of Fame inductees, Betty White, Dick Van Dyke, Bill Moyers, Jim McKay, Richard Levinson, and William Link, Michael Landon, thank you for sharing your talent with those of us who work with you in the entertainment industry and for being an inspiration to audiences across the country. Know this and know it well. To the generations of viewers that will follow us, your accomplishments will stand sentinel to all that is good about this wonderful medium called television. And may the excellence continue. Thank you. Good night.